she's referring to, again, this thing called greedflation. That, hey, the reason why we still have inflation is not because of any fundamental problem with the economy, right? It's not because the supply chain anymore. The supply chains are fixed post-COVID. So what's leading to it? What's leading to it is corporate greed, where they feel like we could just get away with charging higher prices because we used the inflation panic to say, we have no choice but to raise our prices. Meanwhile, they have these colossal margins on the things that they're selling.
Hi Kyle, how have you been? Apparently you're not happy blowing up on Twitter recently, or ecstatic about Trump's win, or enthusiastic about so-called greedflation. You see, companies have been making high profits in America since the recovery from the pandemic, as mentioned by Kyle Kulinski. For instance, corporate profit margins was at 11.3% in the first quarter of 2020, and then for some reason dramatically rose to 19.2% in the second quarter of 2021. And it still stayed pretty high in the last quarter of 2022 at 15.1%. Now this matters because of the sky-high inflation that America and the rest of the world saw. Usually these companies raise prices because of a lack of supply, but Kyle sees these high margins and thinks that this isn't the case. He thinks companies are using the former supply chain crisis post-COVID as an excuse to raise prices on unsuspecting consumers, which leads to the higher profit margins. But is he right? Well, let's fact check him. Also, I'm a little sick if you are wondering why my voice sounds off. I really haven't been that great in updating my audience, but I plan to change that with my Discord, which is in the link below, and I'll talk about it more at the end. First, what is causing the high corporate profits? There appears to be a simple answer: government spending. Businesses received massive subsidies from the Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act of 2020, the Paycheck Protection Program and Healthcare Enhancement Act of 2020, and the American Rescue Plan of 2021. Effectively, their non-labor costs were cut, providing a large boost to corporate profits. This is evident by the government component of non-labor costs, which is a part of business costs that relate to taxes and subsidies. Before 2020, the government component of non-labor costs fluctuated between 8 and 10%, but from the second quarter of 2020, the government component was at 3.8%, a dramatic reduction. This timeline is almost perfectly in line with the government subsidy to GDP ratio, so there's little doubt that subsidies contributed to these high profit margins. I mean, look at that graph. Perfection. Moreover, profit margins also received a boost from lower interest expenses from companies refinancing their obligations to ensure low interest payments due to accommodative monetary interventions. This means interest share of value added was at 2.8% in the last quarter of 2019 and fell to 1.8% in the last quarter of 2022, increasing profit margins by 1%. After all, lower interest rates means lower costs for businesses. But if we kept the government component and interest component the same, profit margins would have been more in line with previous periods of economic growth due to no government and monetary policy intervention. Granted, profits would have been a bit higher after the recovery, but there would have also been a much more dramatic drop in the profit margin. But if we exclude the government or interest component from the profit margin formula, we get the net capital share, which is not directly affected by government intervention. And here, the rebound in profitability post-COVID is not historically abnormal. So what have we learned here, Kyle? That the high corporate profits that you complain about so much is caused by the government intervention that you love so much. Do you understand?
I understand nothing.
In terms of why inflation is so high, I have addressed that in other videos. Now we can argue whether that intervention was necessary during COVID, but it is hard to argue that it didn't come without any consequences/costs. By the way, I want to start expanding my online community, and I've heard one of the best ways to do that is through Discord. So I've pretty much linked my Discord below, and granted I haven't done that much work on it, but I'm going to try and change that. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing as well as liking and commenting on the video, as it really helps the YouTube algorithm. Feel free to check out my other videos. Also, I'm still working on my main Kyle Kulinski video, which won't be out for some time, but this video is a bit of a sneak peek since I'm responding to that same video. Also, I found out about this Kulinski video by my friend, the political Checkmate, who did a much more thorough response to various Kamala Harris policies that Kulinski was defending. So feel free to check him out as well. I think I've linked him in the description below as well. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you later. Bye.